Hey everyone, I'm here with the amazing Dame Gambrill, a longtime friend, and we've worked together, and I'm really excited. He's one of the people that I really admire and respect in the digital marketing space. So yeah, we are going to have an amazing time today, just unpacking some things around what's happening in the landscape at the moment off the back of this 2022 Marketing Insights report that I've prepared. So I'm really excited for our conversation today, and welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Nina. It's great to chat with you. And I just love this technology that allows us to chat with each other on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to dig into your report because I got a sneak peek at it and there's a lot of really good stuff in there. And I can't wait for people to get to know all about it.
Yeah. And we have these kinds of conversations all the time, right? And just recently with let's just hit record and actually share what we kind of talk about with the world. And it just makes so much sense. So I reckon people are going to get a bunch from today. So for those that don't know you, I know a lot of people obviously will, but do you want to just explain a little bit about your background and yourself?
Yeah. So that's a loaded question that could take 20 minutes. And I know we don't have that long. So the way most people know me now is for a Facebook group I have called Digital Marketing Mentorship. And I came there through a bunch of different experiences in corporate America, working for pharmaceutical companies and professional sports teams in the marketing space, and then launching my own leadership business. So I was doing a lot of that stuff and I figured out how to do it online, and people are asking me, how are you doing that? So that's really how digital marketing mentorship started. I also have a podcast called Unleash the Awesome, where I talk about the mindset piece of that, because it's one thing to have the tools and maybe some of the skills to do this stuff, but if you don't have the right mindset, it doesn't work. And so that's also why I was looking at your report and I was like, wow, it has a lot of the pieces of the mindset, skill set, tool set thing that I teach in there. Because these things, honestly, that we were going to talk about are universal, right? It's not like there's new information out there. A lot of the success habits and tools and things like that have been around a really long time. It's just that people need a little refresher on how to apply them right now with all the technology and all the options that we have.
Absolutely. That's the art and the science of it. It's taking these timeless principles that have always existed in different formats. It's around connection, it's around relationships, it's around authenticity, all of that, but applying that in our current context. Let's just start at the top. Why is this conversation even important now?
Yeah, I think the conversation around branding and how you show up as a brand and what you're doing in the marketplace, because of the events that we've had in the last few years, including global pandemics, and we have invasions and wars and all kinds of things going on, people's tolerance for fake things or their patience for somebody putting on a show for something that they're not is really like low, right? And so people really need to get to know who you are or the brand that you are or how you're showing up in the marketplace. And people want to know, like, and trust you faster than ever. And they want to trust you at a level where they can really trust you, because there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world, and they're just looking for touch points, even in simple transactions, even in simple purchases, where they know that if they spend their money, they invest their money in that thing or in that person, they're going to get what they've been promised. And so I think on top of the social media landscape that's been growing and how TikTok has taken over Google in terms of like how much web activity and how much traffic it's getting, right? There's some confusion too on the marketers side of things of like, okay, that's great. I know I need to get out there and enhance my brand and show who I am, but like, there's so many options. What should I do? And I guess more importantly, how should I do it?
Yeah. And that's exactly why I wrote this report, because I'm out and about in the marketplace, literally working with hundreds of marketers, business owners, especially entrepreneurs, CMOs around the globe. And the common challenges that I'm seeing at the moment are really similar across the board, which is people aren't noticing my content. They don't know what I do. They don't know how I help them. I don't know what to say in a way that feels good. And all of that, and therefore I'm not getting the response on the effort that I'm putting into my marketing, my content, my branding, and all these activities. And after looking at it in all the different contexts, it's really boils down to what I think are three things, which is either people don't know you exist, or if people aren't actually excited about you, they don't connect to you, they're not, gravitating towards you. Or the last one is that they're not responding to you. They might know you and they might like you, but they're not actually taking action. And so I think having this, for me, one of the big things that I'm seeing at the moment around what you were saying with brand and, this authenticity, which I know is a largely overused word, but it's a very powerful one, and a lot of people don't really understand what they think it means. They feel like it means, airing all their dirty laundry and crying on Facebook or something like that. And it's not actually that. It's just so much more than that. So yeah, I have some thoughts around that, but I would love to know what you feel is the definition of authenticity, and how the revelation of that and stepping into that and owning that has changed the way that you show up as a business leader and a marketer.
Well, if your viewers happen to be watching a video right now, not just listening to the audio piece of this, and you look at me and you say, oh my gosh, that guy is wearing a sweatshirt, like a hoodie, showing up for this interview, like, what is that all about? And for me, that is part of my authenticity. I was in corporate America, did the suit and tie every day for years. And like, for me, that was a show. I had to put on a show every day to be like, oh, look at me, I'm Mr. Buttoned Up business guy, right? But like, the guy that I usually am is, t-shirts and shorts and flip-flops and hoodies, and like that's who I am. And so once I kind of fully embraced this, even though I knew we were recording today, I was like, whatever, it's Nina. She knows who I am and how I show up. Now, that might be off-putting to some people who were like, well, I'm not listening to this guy. He's wearing a hoodie. Like, what's that all about? But there will be enough people that will stick around long enough to go, oh, okay, this guy might know what he's talking about. Maybe I should listen. And for me, it just becomes easier to just be who I am instead of trying to be multiple people. That's tiring. So I think the same thing holds true for even if you're not a personal brand. I'm more of a personal brand, but I think it holds true for other brands in the marketplace. Like, if you are something and you stand for something and that's how you show up, and that's your guidepost or your lighthouse, or however you want to phrase it, then that's how you show up. And that's easy. So when problems happen, which they're going to happen, and challenges come up, they're going to come up. When situations arise in the marketplace, if you know who you are, or you know what your brand represents, and that's how you show up, then you don't need any special meetings or any special emails to get sent around or whatever, because you're like, this is how we show up. This is how we're going to show up now. This is how we showed up yesterday. And so I think authenticity is just understanding what it is you're trying to do in the marketplace, how you show up, and then just being that at all times, no matter what happens.
Yeah, totally agree. And so just like you, conversely, you're in the hoodie and the casual. Today, I've got nice hair, a bit of makeup, some earrings, but this is not me all the time. I mean, I'm actually really open about the fact that I show up like this probably once a week. And the rest of the time, I'm probably in my gym gear and house gear and all the rest. And I'm completely okay about not feeling like I need to get all polished up to go on social media as well. And so part of my brand is not like I have to be wearing this same one thing all the time. Is I am this multifaceted person because I wear a lot of hats as a mother, as a business owner, as someone who's out there enjoying life. But it did take me a long time to feel okay about the combination and the juxtaposition of both. And it actually is so liberating, because just being you means you don't have to try and be someone else. But I feel like there's a bigger part of that, which both you and I have experienced, which is a very powerful part, is the actually being okay with being you part, which sits behind the authenticity. And just putting yourself out there because you need visibility. But when you don't have the conviction and the substance behind that what you're actually bringing to the world is needed and is going to make a difference and is going to help people, that energy comes across or doesn't come across. And it's that part of the energy that's needed as the kind of wrap around that authenticity. Is like, it needs to be wrapped in that conviction to have impact. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I love how in your report you talk about people want to feel, right? I mentioned know, like, and trust, but you have a couple bullet points in there about feeling, right? So what does that fit? And, we've all had situations with people or brands or companies where you think to yourself like, wow, that looks pretty cool, but something doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. Right? This isn't sitting right with me. And it's because there's some incongruency in what the brand is doing, how they're showing up, what the person is doing, how they're showing up, whatever. And so I think, when you get back to it and what I was talking about before, like, if you just know who you are and how you show up, and that's how you always show up, people are going to feel that. And honestly, they're going to feel it one way or the other, which is fine, because, one of my friends, our common friend, Jim Edwards, often says, love me or hate me, there's no money in the middle, right? So like, if you're trying to appeal to everybody all the time, you're going to appeal to no one. But if your brand is like, this is who I am, this is how I show up, this is what I do, you're going to attract the right people and the right business to you, and you're going to repel the people that you don't want to work with anyway. And so that's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't pay attention to, is like, when I show up like this now, like the people who want to work with me will work with me, not because I'm wearing a hoodie, but they're just like, wow, that guy is just, he is who he is, and he is who he says he is. And that's how he shows up. And so I think the more people can get to that place of just being in alignment instead of wearing, 900 different hats all day, that's so tiring. Like life is tiring already. So just make it easier on yourself and just try to be as close to like one person as you can be. And I know that's hard because there's, standards in the workplace and the marketplace, and there's things that, precedent that you look at from a marketing standpoint, and people will push back and say, well, we can't do that because that company's not doing that. Well, that's precisely why you probably should do it. If it makes some sense for you and your brand, maybe that will make you stand out. But I think a lot of people just say, well, we can't do that. We're going to do what everybody else does. And what that does is just make you hide in the background where people can't see you and they don't care about you or your brand.
Yeah, so true. And really leaning into your personality. And there's so many different ways to do things. And I think that's one of the exciting things about where marketing is at in 2022 and the next season that we're going into, because there's been so much of the same, or people copying other people and what they do and looking for what's the industry best practice. And I mean, modeling is great, like emulating great principles, and they don't have to be from someone in the digital space or the online space. I mean, there's models for decades. People have been able to take principles and then interpret those in a way that fit you. But even just the way you show up, leaning into aspects of your personality that are going to light you up, but at the same time being congruent, like congruence is a really big word. Like, are you really like that offline as well? Like, is someone's experience with you in an email or in a message or in a call or at an event or on your website, is it going to have the same vibe? Is it going to have the same feel? And when it does, that just makes people feel safe.
Yeah. And conversely, we were talking about this before we started recording. There's a mentor of mine that, I had put on a pedestal, and I was really like, okay, this guy really knows what's going on, and he's really amazing. And he taught me a lot of great stuff. And I'm thankful that I came across him in my life. But then when I really got to know him and kind of see behind the scenes a little bit, I was like, whoa, wait a second. This is not congruent at all with what he does in public and on stage. And like, that doesn't work for me. Like, I can't have somebody selling one thing and doing something else. And so for me, I was like, okay, that guy's not getting any more of my business. And so, that can also happen. And so if you're in the business of attracting and keeping lifetime customers, then it's a lot easier to, if you're, again, just congruent the whole way through, then there's no front of stage and back of house difference, right?
Yeah.
You're the same person in the front, same person in the back, same person, like you said, at the conference, whatever. And I think maybe one of the possible good things that have come out of people doing remote work and stuff like that is we're seeing a lot more through Zoom and other things, like literally people working in their pajamas and showing up with messy hair or whatever. And so there's been a little bit of a lowering the bar around like, okay, like you can kind of be yourself. And so now will be the opportune time for people that have been afraid of that to be like, okay, I should embrace it now before it goes back to some kind of, I think that the pendulum and the needle, right, it swings back and forth. And so I think it's gone to one extreme, and now as the world starts opening up again, it's probably going to start going a little bit the other way. People get a little more buttoned up. So now will be the chance to put your stake in the ground and say, well, wait a second, this is who I am. This is how I show up. And if you don't like it, well, maybe you need to hire somebody else or work with somebody else or whatever.
Yeah, I love that. And, something else that I really am seeing so much of at the moment, and I would love to unpack a little bit, is the whole thing about trust. And it's really bolted onto this trust and the fact of the value that of actually when you are like that and people get to know you, not only do they feel safe with you and trust you, and from personal experience, I can say that the opportunities that opened up to me once I fully became okay with who I am and showing up as my full self, not like 50% of myself, which I thought that the world wanted to see, but showing my full self and embracing that, so many opportunities opened up to me. But things became so much easier as well, because I didn't have to think, well, is this the part that I want to put? And is this the part that I not put? It became easier. And so on the front end, while things opened up for me, I also found an exponentially more number of people actually sharing and promoting and mentioning, and doing so from a place of wanting other people to know about me or what I'm doing or something that I've got, or this piece of content or whatever. And I feel like that is the untapped gold mine at the moment. We have always known in marketing and sales that word of mouth trumps all other things. But for me, that's just gone exponentially higher in the last couple of months, and probably maybe year or two, as people have such decision fatigue around trying to sift through so much information. They'd rather just go straight to a trusted source and say, who do you recommend for this? Or people, not even who do you recommend, people will just talk about a problem that they're having, and then other people will go in and say, well, this brand can help you, or this person can help you. And that's just happening very, very organically, but the power in that is so huge. So I know that being referable, being shareable, being endorsable, etc., is something that has been happening for you for a while as well. So I thought maybe let's unpack some insights around that.
Yeah, that's a great insight. And for me, because I got to the point where it took me years to do it, I haven't always done this, but when I got to the point where I was congruent and I just am who I am, and that's how I show up, there have been plenty of people that have been with me on the journey. And so they've seen me go from like, just like everybody else, to like, oh, that guy's pretty successful and he's showing up on podcasts and other places, and why he's speaking from stages. And you'll hear people that will say like, he's the same guy that I met 10 years ago or 15 years ago or whatever. Like, that's him. That's him on stage. That's him sitting over next to us. Like, it's the same thing. And for me, because they've seen that and then they come to trust me. So yeah, then when I make a recommendation, they're like, well, I like Dave. And if Dave likes that, then maybe I should take a look at it. And as you were saying that, it made me think about, and I know you know this data, I don't know if it's in your report, but it used to be that people had to see something, a brand, something new to them like 7 to 10 times before they would even decide whether or not they wanted to interact with it, right? So you'd have to see a commercial or hear it on the radio. And then you'd be like, okay, maybe I want to go buy that McDonald's Big Mac or whatever, right? But then in the last few years, that number has jumped up to like 20 to 30 times, right? And so to your point about decision fatigue, people are already getting so much information, and now ads are coming at us everywhere, on social media, on TVs, on the radio, like, and you can't really get away from it. And people are just like, man, I just want to make a decision. And so if they could cut all that out and just be like, Nina, what do you like? What do you use? What do you trust? And it makes me think of something else we're talking about before we got on this recording. I'm having some work done at my house, and it's not inexpensive. It's thousands of dollars. And I was, soliciting bids and having people come give me estimates. And then I called my brother who lives close and my parents who live close. And I say, hey, I'm looking to get this stuff done. And they're like, oh, we actually did that, and we use this person. And I called my brother, and they actually used the same person. So I was like, okay. So of course I called that person, and guess what? They had got my business, even though I had 6 different people come out and give me estimates and ideas about the project. But because of the trust and the work that they did, and I got to see it, and then, them sharing that with me, I'm like, oh yeah, sure, go with it. So that guy got a multi-$1,000 deal just based on trust. And so I think it's critical that, again, if if you're the person in the front of the room that's the same as the person in the back of the room, or on stage or back of house, or whatever, it just makes it easier for people to trust you. The other thing I'll say, and then I'll kick it back to you, is, but you also have to get smart about not selling everything, not pitching everything. That was one of the mistakes I made early on. I'm like, okay, everybody's listening to me, I'll sell everything. Right. And then I was like, well, wait a second, like some of the stuff doesn't make sense and it's not good for my audience. Like, yeah, it's good for me because I make some money, but like I had to get to a point where I understood it's only good for me if it's good for my audience and it's helping them have success, long-term success. And so if you find yourself in a spot where people are relying on you for recommendations, then you just have to be smart about it, including whether or not you're going to recommend people for jobs when people call you and say, oh, you work with this person, what do you think? There have been times where I've said, you might need to call someone else to get a glowing recommendation. How's that? So I didn't say anything negative, but I was just like, I can't really go there.
Yes.
So you have to know that there's some responsibility that comes with that trust as well, and you can't blow it.
Yeah. And for people who are out there marketing themselves and their business, and obviously, tapping into existing customers. And once you have customers out there, singing your praises and sharing you with their friends and introducing people, that's great. But one of the things that I've seen a marked increase in for myself, especially in the last, 6 to 12 months, and I'm sure you have as well, and I know a lot of people have, is people who are not your customers actively going out there and advocating for you. And I feel like this is an area where there's a lot of potential to really bolster that by giving people, I guess the way I like to look at it, basically like tools or means or prompts but in a very, very service oriented way. So not from a selling spammy, icky way, but hey, I'm helping all these people. Are there other people that need help as well? And even without making the ask, putting out stuff that's so good that people want to do their friends a favor and get it into their hands. And that's where you actually can develop this army of people who are out there singing your praises. And I feel like in 2022, where there's so many people, especially in a very crowded online space, going out waving their flags, look at me, look at me, look at me, the more people you can get out there, and they don't have to be past customers, they can be advocates, they can be fans, they can be referral partners, they can be trusted media, they can be industry experts. When they drop your name or when they reference a piece of your content, the weight on that is so exponentially higher than if you do it yourself. So what do you think?
Yeah. And especially because there's not a quid pro quo or a direct sale there. It's not like, they're saying, hey, you were looking to buy this thing, go buy it from that guy. Like, these people aren't even in the marketplace probably for what you're doing. But when I use the term edutainment a lot as it comes to personal brands, like create content that's educational, but has some entertainment value to it, because people don't come on social media to like learn. They want to come on and disassociate a little bit and get some entertainment and watch funny cat videos, whatever. So if you can figure out a way to share a cat video that has a teaching in it, like that's wonderful. Like, people will share that. Right. And I get it. There's some CMOs listening to this are like, oh my gosh, I can't measure that. That doesn't make any sense. But but a lot of this is playing the long game. You're not on a lot of this trust marketing. There is no quid pro quo. There is no reach and frequency metric that you're going to be able to say like, well, we did this today, so we should get X number of impressions and X number of sales later. Like, this is the long game.
Yeah.
And so, but again, if you're going to be congruent and play the long game, then what happens is you have more opportunity for people to be able to refer you and trust you. And over time, like, maybe you sell something that people don't need all the time. Maybe they only need it every 10 years or something.
Yeah.
But if you've been doing it long enough and people are talking about you and your business, then when it's time for them to use your service, you're top of mind. And that's critical.
Absolutely. And it's about really getting clear, like from a strategic perspective, on making sure that what you're putting out there lines up with what it is, how it is that you help people. So you're not just putting out random stuff for the sake of it, but people really have a sense of who you are. They can describe you in a few words. They understand what problem you solve. And so the way you're showing up and helping and serving and, putting out content or resources or, doing events or whatever it is that you're helping people with is strategically aligned with that, which then, coupled with the brand authenticity and the congruency and the consistency and all of that, as you say, over time, it's like compound interest. It just continues to rise in value. So it's definitely an investment into yourself and your future and your reputation to be mindful of that and proactive around it.
Yes, indeed. And the reason I'm looking away is because I was looking through your slides. You actually have a great Venn diagram of this. So if people didn't get this report, they definitely need to get your hands on it. But where you talk about the brand, and then you have all these circles around it that overlap and explain if you're doing all these things consistently, you will definitely be successful with what you're doing. But it's not just one of them, and it's not just one of them sometimes. You got to have elements of all of it going on a consistent basis. And that's how you have a sustainable, successful brand.
Yeah, that's so good. Oh, we could talk all day, as we often do. We'll keep the conversation going, but thank you so much for all those juicy insights today, Dave. It was just so fun hanging out with you and chatting with you. And where can people find you if they'd like to know more about you?
I'm not hard to find. If you just search Dave Gambrill on Google, you'll find me. I have the first 2 or 3 pages of search results. You can also listen to my podcast, Unleash the Awesome.
Yeah.
I need to get a little better with putting episodes out with more frequency, but there's like 80 of them that you can listen to that have already been published, and then I'll get some more out there soon.
I know, and some amazing episodes in there. I've listened to so many of them myself. I love it. I'm a big fan. You have the most amazing guests of the highest caliber, and I'm not even going to name drop because there's so many of them in there. Anyone who's watching, do yourself a favor and go and pick and choose, whether it's around mindset or skill set or tool set, something that Dave's got going on. So thank you so much. It was really cool to have this chat. We'll do it again soon. And for anyone watching, if you want to get more details of what we've been talking about today, we've been talking about my 2022 marketing insights reports, which really goes in a very fun, scannable, easy to consume way into about 30 trends that are shaping marketing in 2022 and beyond. So if you're watching this in 2023, it will definitely be relevant, and you'll know that we were talking about this stuff in 2022. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Bye
Dana.
now.
See you.